BBC employees lied and used fake documents to obtain the interview with my mother, made lurid and false claims about the royal family, which played on her fears and fueled paranoia, displayed woeful incompetence when investigating complaints and concerns about the programme.
Beneath the crown's glitter lies a promise the world was never meant to hear. A vow made beside Diana's coffin, buried and forgotten until now. The palace stands silent, but history trembles. Nearly 30 years after Diana's death, the truth she left behind is stirring once more.
28 years after Princess Diana's sudden and shocking death.
A revelation that could shatter the peace King Charles built and reveal the true cost of the crown. Have you ever wondered what promises remain hidden behind palace walls? What secrets did Diana leave that the world was never meant to know? Stay connected, because this moment isn't just a memory resurfacing. It's the reckoning Diana's spirit never stopped waiting for. The envelope that buried secrets in silence. The world will soon hear what was never meant to leave the shadows. Nearly 30 years after Diana's death, a long-hidden promise made beside her coffin is ready to surface, one that could shake the monarchy and reveal the human cost behind the crown. The palace may appear serene, but inside, decades of silence have built a storm. Even the walls seem to hold their breath, guarding secrets that shaped the monarchy's history yet remained invisible to the public eye. Footsteps echoed in hollow halls, carrying whispers of promises broken and loyalties tested. This is not about titles or power. It's about truth, justice, and the memory of a woman who captured the hearts of millions. For years, I carried the weight of unanswered questions, watching history harden into myths while betrayals went unchallenged. Now, that silence ends. Memories flood back like rain against Kensington Palace windows, the cold corridors, the grief of a 15-year-old boy, the hollow rooms echoing with loss. The crash that claimed my mother left a wound no ceremony could heal. Flowers piled outside, the world mourned, but inside, the palace hid secrets that time could never erase. Among those shadows, a small envelope appeared, trembling hands handing it over with fear of breaking royal rules. It was an object that bridged past and present, a tangible fragment of grief and duty, heavier than any crown. For the first time, the weight of history felt undeniably personal, pressing into the heart of everyone who touched it. Could a single letter really hold the power to shake the monarchy and change history? And yet, it wasn't just the words on the paper that mattered. It was the timing, the intent, and the courage it demanded. A boy who had lost his mother, now a man with a crown of his own, faced a decision that could either bury the past forever or confront it boldly. The palace, for all its grandeur, could no longer shield the fragile threads of human emotion woven into history. Inside lay a letter from my father, written in anguish, containing the words of a vow made beside my mother's lifeless form. It was a promise meant to protect her memory, a pledge broken long before the world knew. Even after the paper was taken away, its weight burned inside me, leaving a scar that pulsed with every heartbeat. Tonight, after years of holding grief and silence, the truth will be spoken. Not for revenge, not for spectacle, but to honor a legacy stolen and to confront the cost of choices made behind palace walls. A reckoning is coming, one that will ripple far beyond royal halls, touching everyone who has ever trusted and been betrayed. Shadows behind the crown. And yet, how much of this shadow did the world truly understand? What went unseen behind the glittering ceremonies? The crown may glimmer, yet its hidden side is finally emerging. A history of private sorrow, quiet sacrifices, and silent protests from those who loved her. The monarchy's polish could no longer mask the fractures beneath the surface. The coronation passed like a public celebration, and a private wound, London rose beneath leaden skies.
King Charles's coronation, and with Camilla about to be crowned queen, many are thinking about the late Princess Diana. James Longman joined us again.
Choirs and flags marking a new era. While inside Kensington, a different story was unfolding. Applause on the streets, emptiness behind the curtains. What looked like a triumph to the world felt like a profound betrayal at home. The moment the crown settled, something inside cracked. The symbol that had never been hers in life now gleamed where Diana should have stood. A quiet fury gathered, slow and inevitable, until it became resolve. In the days that followed, formalities gave way to confrontation. A visit to Clarence House was no polite call. It was an urgent demand for answers about a long-buried pledge and the choices that had allowed it to be erased. A tense waiting room, restrained faces, small tells that exposed a fragile composure. The exchange that followed was raw and taut, a test of who controlled the story and who would own the consequences. That moment changed everything. It turned private hurt into a public decision. Silence was no longer an option. The reaction would not be limited to palace gossip, it would ripple outward. Headlines, demonstrations, old loyalties re-examined. Turning grief into action meant accepting risk, and the cost of truth suddenly felt enormous and necessary. Then, as the aftermath settled like storm clouds over the city, an anonymous package arrived. A small device, a signal that the fight had moved from rooms and whispers into evidence and exposure. The campaign that began in quiet corridors was becoming something bigger, a confrontation between legacy and accountability, between the past that would not die and the present that could no longer look away. A plain white envelope slipped through palace lines. No return name, only a ghostly address. It arrived like a threat, small, anonymous, designed to bypass prying eyes. An aide flagged it, unease spreading through the household. Whatever was inside felt less like a message and more like a weapon. Inside a sealed study, the device was plugged in. Grainy footage filled the screen. Intimate, fragile moments from the past that the public had never been meant to see. The images were raw enough to reshape a life's reputation. In the wrong hands, they could rewrite a beloved figure as fragile or fractured instead of revered. Anonymous texts followed, each one a clear warning. Go ahead, and the footage goes public. The intent was obvious: to silence by shame, to turn private pain into tabloid fodder. The tactic was familiar: leverage the press to punish and control. But the attempt to intimidate backfired. Instead of retreat, it hardened resolve. The plan shifted from defense to disclosure. The broadcast would run uncut, and any later leaks would be met with legal force. Notices were prepared for major outlets, a firm line drawn around the truth as it would be presented. What began as a covert attack had become the catalyst for exposure. A private threat had propelled a public reckoning, the palace's hidden skirmish moving into daylight, where consequences could no longer be contained. The legal engines were set in motion, every move calculated, every document prepared. From privacy violations to defamation of the deceased, a clear message had been sent, not just to the press, but directly to Camilla herself. The truth cannot be buried. She might sit beneath a crown, shielded by loyal aides and palace protocol. But the Spencer family stood ready, backed by top legal minds prepared to transform secrecy and threats into undeniable evidence. Every detail was traced. Cyber teams combed through digital footprints, MI5 experts examined the USB, and forensic checks tracked the origin of the anonymous envelope. This wasn't theatrics. It was a strategic counterstrike in a war fought in shadows, a calculated move to ensure the legacy of Diana and justice itself would survive the palace games. In the quiet of Kensington Palace Gardens, the family gathered. Even the roses seemed to lean closer as if nature itself bore witness to the weight of history, offering a fleeting solace amidst the chaos. Small hands traced petals, curious yet reverent, connecting generations to a legacy that refused to fade. Amid roses and memories of a mother's laughter, Kate's quiet reassurance and the children's innocent curiosity anchored determination. George, wide-eyed and puzzled, asked why so many despised Camilla. The answer was simple, yet heavy. She claimed what never belonged to her, a crown built on broken promises while Diana's honor had been stolen. The fuse was lit. The broadcast would be more than revelation. It would be reckoning. Camilla had initiated the game, underestimating the force of truth, the weight of public sentiment, and the resolve of those who loved Diana. London's gray drizzle mirrored the tension inside as whispers rippled through palace corridors. And then, the unexpected arrival of King Charles III broke protocol, bringing the storm closer to home. A reminder that the monarchy's battles are never far from the family itself. The stage was set. Every secret, every manipulation would now face the light, and the world was about to watch it unfold. A reckoning in the rain. The royal car arrived without warning. Servants moved with practiced calm, but the tension in the house was anything but routine. Within minutes, the king stood framed in the doorway, worn, rain-darkened, and carrying the weight of years. He asked for a private conversation, the kind the palace rarely allows. Doors closed. Rain tapped against the windows as the atmosphere shifted from public ceremony to private crisis. The king's posture was strained. His face showed the strain of sleepless nights and regret. His message was urgent and pleading. Making the old letter public would unleash consequences far beyond private pain. He warned that exposing it risked more than personal ruin. It could fracture the institution itself and put the children's future at stake. The reply came with quiet force. The past could not be sacrificed on the altar of convenience. The answer held, a mother's memory deserved preservation, not erasure. What had been promised at a grave could not be dismissed because it proved inconvenient decades later. The exchange grew heated, the room filling with a mix of sorrow and resolve. Appeals to duty collided with a determination that grief should not be swept under royal decorum. Temper rose, voices tightened, and the argument spilled toward decisions with real stakes. The king's plea rested on caution and continuity. The counterpoint demanded truth and accountability. In that moment, the choice between protecting an institution and defending a legacy became painfully clear. After that confrontation, silence did not return. Instead, the encounter hardened resolve. The path forward would be public and unflinching, consequences be damned. The palace, once a place of ritual and restraint, was now the stage for a decision that would shape both family and crown. The loss of Princess Diana still cast its shadow over the palace, and the consequences of broken promises lingered like a storm cloud ready to strike. A crown had been placed on Camilla's head, a symbol of power gained through secrecy and manipulation, while the memory of a vow made beside a coffin was buried under decades of silence. Kensington Palace held its tension in every corridor, a quiet pressure before the world learned what had been kept hidden. London's streets reflected the gray chill of anticipation, and the air felt heavy with the knowledge that truth, long suppressed, was about to surface. Memorial Day offered the moment. The occasion, meant to honor a life of compassion, became the stage for reckoning. Every decision, every preparation, carried the weight of history and legacy behind closed doors. Strategies unfolded, ensuring that the story of betrayal and unkept vows could not be stopped or ignored. As the broadcast began, the world responded instantly. Social media erupted, millions sharing images and memories of Diana's courage and grace. Headlines scrambled to keep pace, capturing the impact of decades of silence finally broken. The palace trembled quietly, not from storms or rain, but from the revelation that the truth behind the crown could no longer remain hidden. Justice, long delayed, began its course, reshaping the narrative of a monarchy built on both devotion and deception. The moment the broadcast aired, the impact was immediate and electric. Polls reflected overwhelming public support, with nearly two-thirds of citizens rallying behind the call for justice for Diana outside Buckingham Palace. Crowds surged, candles flickering in the evening wind, voices rising in chants demanding accountability and truth.
Bright mass of flowers now dwarfing the hundreds of people at the edge of it, built up in 6 overwhelming days. It was here below, behind the gates of Kensington Palace.
The atmosphere was electric, both reverent and charged with outrage, an echo of grief finally finding its voice after decades of silence. Inside Clarence House, Camilla watched the broadcast unfold on a massive screen. Witnesses later described the scene as a storm of controlled fury, the air thick with tension. Reports suggested shattered glass and tense outbursts, signaling a rare, unguarded display of emotion from the Queen. Attempts to call the king reflected desperation, a need to contain what had already slipped beyond control. But the message had been delivered. The revelation was irreversible, spreading across screens, social media, and conversations around the globe. The monarchy's carefully curated image wavered. Public confidence trembled, reflected even in dips in tourism-related shares. Meanwhile, Diana's legacy surged in a new form. Charitable donations to organizations she had championed skyrocketed within hours, a tribute to her enduring influence and the renewed public commitment to her causes. The broadcast was far more than a confession. It resonated like a tolling bell through the kingdom, stirring collective conscience and forcing long-suppressed truths into daylight. Camilla's grip on her image and influence showed cracks for the first time in decades. In the weeks that followed, she withdrew entirely from public life. Scheduled appearances, tours, and official engagements were abandoned, and no formal statements emerged. Observers noted a near-ghostly presence at Clarence House, as if the Queen had retreated into the shadows, avoiding scrutiny and public reaction. Outside, the press maintained relentless vigilance, the public clamoring for accountability, and palace insiders whispered of internal tension and fear. In those tense weeks, the monarchy experienced a rare vulnerability. The narrative of power and control had been disrupted, leaving a kingdom questioning loyalties, past choices, and the true cost of ambition. The ripple effects of the revelation reshaped perception, emboldened voices of truth, and reignited devotion to the memory of Diana, whose legacy had long been at the mercy of secrecy and manipulation. In the aftermath of the broadcast, the atmosphere inside the palace shifted to one of quiet tension and fragile control. Camilla retreated to her private quarters, days blurring into nights, relying on sedatives to steady nerves frayed by the public storm. The exhaustion and weight of scrutiny showed on her face, drawn and pale, as palace aides scrambled to anticipate her next move. Whispers of blame circulated among her closest advisors, all acknowledging the impossible pressure created by the revelation. King Charles soon felt the toll as well. The palace released a brief statement noting his hospitalization for exhaustion and elevated blood pressure, though insiders understood the strain ran far deeper. Confined to a private royal suite, he was left alone with memories long suppressed, a man haunted by decisions and promises he could no longer ignore. The silence of those days was thick, a reflection of a monarchy suddenly vulnerable and deeply human. Visits were rare, not from malice, but from the need for space, a wound left open, raw, and unhealed. Across the Atlantic, Prince Harry reached out from his home in Montecito. The connection bridged not just distance, but years of unspoken grief and separation. In that conversation, a shared recognition of loss and duty emerged. The brothers, once separated by circumstance and choice, found a quiet alignment in their resolve to honor their mother's legacy. But the question remained: how would the next generation carry forward the promise Diana had made beside her coffin? Legacy restored. A mother's promise echoes through generations. Away from the gaze of the world, lessons were passed in whispers and gentle guidance. George traced the curves of the old leather notebook. Charlotte asked questions that went beyond titles, and Louis smiled at stories of kindness and bravery. Through them, Diana's spirit spoke anew, not as a shadow of the past, but as a living presence shaping choices, teaching empathy, and showing that courage is more than a headline. It's a daily act of heart. Days later, attention turned to grounding the next generation. A visit to Windsor Chapel offered a rare reprieve from the storm. Sunlight poured through the stained glass, casting the stone floor in muted, shifting patterns, while the faint scent of lilies carried memories of a gentler time. Among the quiet arches and solemn beauty, the younger generation asked questions that cut to the heart of legacy and remembrance. Curiosity mingled with innocence as they sought to understand the woman who had captivated a world and changed the meaning of compassion within the royal family. In that moment, the truth of influence over form became clear. The crown, never worn by the woman who had inspired it, was not just a symbol of power. It reflected her integrity, courage, and enduring human touch within the grandeur of monarchy. The lessons of love, loss, and resilience were passed along quietly, a gentle yet undeniable reminder that legacy is not defined by titles, but by the enduring impact left on hearts and history alike. Her legacy was never about crowns or ceremonies. It was about humanity, courage, and standing for what was right, even when the world turned a blind eye. It reminds us that influence isn't measured in titles or grandeur, but in the moments we choose to stand for others, to speak truth, and to act with compassion when no one is watching. The old leather notebook, worn from sleepless nights and painstaking memory, rested quietly on the stone, its pages holding a promise carried across decades. It was more than paper. It was a testament to truth, to a vow that refused to fade. The story of that promise may reach its conclusion, but her influence continues to shine, a lasting light in the shadowed halls of history. Those who sought to manipulate and conceal found their control slipping, leaving only echoes of panic and solitude in its wake. Justice, tempered by conviction and remembrance, prevailed, not through power or retribution, but through honesty and steadfast love. In the end, peace returned, a quiet acknowledgement of what was lost and what endures. Her spirit remains, shaping hearts, inspiring generations, and reminding the world that true legacy lies not in titles, but in the courage to do what is right. If you were in William's place, would you have stayed silent or revealed the truth? How do you think Diana's legacy can inspire change today? Share your reflections on this story and her lasting impact with us in the comments below. We'd love to hear how her legacy touches you.